Day of Vara is upon us, and Star Citizen in October has gone into Halloween mode. So, what we're seeing is the beginning of the celebration of the Day of Vara for 2951. And this is some really fun stuff to kind of tide us over until Digital CitizenCon on October 9. And a lot of interesting stuff to cover. So let's kind of just dive into a few different topics that are right here on this page and also in other places. So I hinted at this 2 videos ago about the ghoulish green paints. I mentioned before how it's kind of like if a gold could rust. It also reminds me deeply of the Hurston Dynamics kind of goldish tint to things, like that copperish gold. I think it looks really good in game. It does shine. It is quite a showy paint, but it is something unique. I think if you're looking for something cool, I think the paints themselves are really nice, and I'll get to that in a moment. Also, if you didn't get a mask like this in a previous event, it is now available. All you got to get to is Jumptown. I'm going to put a guide on how to get to Jumptown in the description below, and you have to be there on Monday, Wednesday, or Fridays. And note that it says you have to go inside the building in order to do it. I would follow the same rule as previous in-game events. I would do it more than once, preferably on different days, just in case, to guarantee that you got it in. Understand that I would go packing very, very light, and I would scout the area as best you could with the craft you're in, and preferably at least bring a friend or two. Take turns going in. If you run into any problems, like enemy players inside, try to fight your way out and get out of there. Understand the airlock may buy you some time, and don't forget that the ship you came in on, if it has weapons, especially a turret, you can park that puppy right in the front door, right outside, and cover yourself. Give yourself a little bit of cover getting out. Even if they take you out, they won't get any loot, and you'll take them out as well. So don't go deep inside, whatever you do. There's 3 different doors from a right in Jumptown. The building itself, it's it's quite a death trap. So anticipate possibilities of PvP, but most of the time I think it'll be pretty clean. In the previous events, there was one where you went to Bennyhenge, and I can remember personally flying in a Cutlass Red, and another time I flew it myself in a Cutty Red, full of folks who we just finished the 30 kill events, 30 individual kills with the Gladius lined up, and some of the most fun social in-game events I've had the pleasure of being able to play with the folks of the Star Citizen community. It really cemented the multiplayer aspect to me, and not a single PvP engagement happened at all. So I could be overthinking it. Note that Jumptown is not what it used to be. I know they're trying to bring out the Jumptown 2.0 topics of like allowing it to drop random loot of illegal cargo. I don't believe that's in game yet, so like drugs and such. But there's not really a financial incentive. It's more just you have to go inside, and that's it for that one. The masks are back. More on that in a minute, whether you like them or not. Do note the eyes do light up, and they jingle. They're like a lazy eyes that go down and up on their own. They're a little weird, but they're fun. It is what it is. And the Day of Vara, as noted, is being celebrated on October 27, and there will be public festivities. I would not be surprised if there's like gifts to collect for money, but they don't say that yet, so just note that they did not say that. But other previous events, they've done different things for the holidays, so I'm curious if they're building up Day of Vara so much this year. Let's see. I'm curious what they'll roll out on the 27th at or around that time period. We'll see. The pumpkin carving event is back. More on that in a moment. And the Cave Runners is this new foot-based race, not a race in a ship or a vehicle in previous events. More on that in a little bit. So at the bottom of the page, you don't have to be logged in to see these. There is a ship sale. You can see that they also have the vehicle, the flyable motorcycle. They had the Dragonfly coming with that paint. Note that they include the price of the paint in the cost. So you can see that it's not requiring war bond, but it is $45 USD, which is high. $105 for the Cutlass Black, so they're including the cost of the Cutty Black paint. The Buccaneer, 117, and the Caterpillar. Now, they noted in here that the Caterpillar's price will be increasing at IAE. So at the Ship Expo, which is coming around, it's late November. Last year it started on November 20. And then each day has a different manufacturer. I can't remember which day was Drake Day, but think in late November, the 20s, November 20, 22, 23, whatever day it was, they had this. And if I remember, now that I'm thinking about it, for Fleet Week, Drake has to sneak in at the end and they do their own, like, defense distributor week, day, a couple days. But at IAE, they have their own Drake Day. They're supported in the event, so it's in the first few days. Do note that none of these are worth getting right now. Sorry if anybody's like surprised to hear that. They only come with 6-month insurance. So unless you're one of those folks that is willing to accept, after beta comes out and we roll into full game, which will be a few years from now at the minimum, you only have 6 months of insurance starting then. Right now, insurance is basically LTI for all intensive purposes until the full game rolls out for every ship you purchase, regardless of its insurance status. But it is not truly going to last as long as LTI or 10-year insurance or even 2-year insurance that we've seen on some of the subscriber vehicles that have come out and they're trying to push 1 year, 2-year insurance. It's only 6 months. This is the regular insurance package on ships that may or may not be available usually. So the Dragonfly, the Cutlass Black are more common. Less common is the Buccaneer, and of course the Caterpillar that's got to go up in price. And in the community right now, there's a lot of people stepping back and saying, "Look, it's nice you're bringing the nice Ghoulish paint, which has already been out for the Cutlass series, but why are you increasing the price unless you're going to release the modularity for the Cat?" Now we've seen that they were releasing the modularity for the Retaliator base and Retaliator bomber. They just showed the previews of that just a couple weeks ago. And if that's the case, that they're releasing the modularity for the Cat this year, that would be an interesting signal kind of to see where modularity is going and make the Cat very exciting, and that would explain the price increase. But we have not heard a word about the Cat getting its modularity. So what gives, is really what a lot of the community is saying. Now, underneath them, is something I can recommend a lot more, almost wholeheartedly, is the paints themselves. If you notice, they're very reasonable. Well, the Dragonfly one's a little pricey for just a Dragonfly. I don't know why it's $5, $5 USD, but if you look here, the Cutlass Ghoulish Green is only $5 USD, and that covers all the different Cutlasses. You can put this paint on the black, the red, or the blue, and if they ever... in the future, if they ever roll out yet another Cutlass, I could see them obviously allowing everything to be crossed over, unless it's a true variant that completely changes the entire ship. So that's a really nice for that price. I have flown my red around constantly with that paint job on it because I just love that pattern so much on that ship. The Buccaneer, it kind of surprised me. It was more money. I think it should be at that same price point, but it is still cool, especially if you're a huge Buccaneer fan. I mean, look at the engine cowlings and all the nice work it does on the wings and such. Understand that these do decrease your stealthiness, so to speak. When this ship is sitting with its engines off on the surface of a planet, this will, when somebody shines a light down there in the dark, they're going to definitely see these. But how often is that really the case? Usually you get pinged or scanned or somebody spamming the buttons to be able to hit the next target, and that's how you get spotted and followed and tracked, than actual visual. Just keep that in mind too. So, and then finally, the paint for the Caterpillar, which no surprise is more money, $11 USD. Out of the group, I can recommend this one right here. I have not even seen it in game, and I'd still wholeheartedly recommend it. I'd love to try it out. I'm probably going to pick this one up myself and probably pick up another one of the Cutlass Ghoulish greens. There is a package deal that includes all four, so one for each, and it shows that price reduction. But and that might explain the prices for these two are a little high for what I really think they should be. This should be like $2, and this should be 5, and that might explain a little bit of the psychology of the pricing to try to make this look like more of a deal to get the 4-pack, because to me those two are less desirable than the Cutlass series and the Caterpillar series for the paints. But that's preference. I mean, I prefer slightly larger ships. I guess you could make that argument that a Cutlass is probably the smallest ship I usually roll around in. Uh, and I do value greatly utility of a ship more so than purist. Like this is a pure combat vessel right here, to be fair. Short range, pure combat vessel. So that is what it is. But these are very cool, very worth it. I would take a hard look at one of these. And honestly, if you're on the fence, save your credit, save your money, whatever you're doing. If you're using, you don't forget, you can always just store credit for this type of stuff. You can even buy it, put it in buyback, and buy it back later. Don't forget that. So you can enjoy the Day of Vara festivities for the month, put it in buyback until next year, and then pick it up again to celebrate Vara. So keep that in the back of your mind too. But you can go in game. I guarantee there's gonna be a lot of folks flying around with these. Anybody flying around in Drake gear is probably every other one is going to be covered in these ghoulish green paints for a while throughout the month, especially as a few days go by and people get a wind of this sale. They sit down, they start playing some games, especially on the weekends. You can check this out for yourself. And if you can't find nobody, hit me up if I'm on. I'll gladly show you. At the very least, my Cutty red all set up because it's always ready to go like that. So under the paints, there is these they're calling them helmets, and this is a topic for another day whether these should be helmets or not, but they are helmets. You can wear them on your head and walk around in space with these on, and they are the most trolly things you've ever seen. Like I mentioned earlier, the eyes actually are independent of each other. They jingle a lot in the head of the helmet. They're very unique, they're very divisive. If you enjoy making a joke with your friends, picking up one of them is probably a good idea. If you're absolutely into these, like big time, there is a pack. I don't know why you would spend that kind of on this, but hey, whatever works for you. I will say that they are pretty creepy when you're running around in a dark ship. If you're looking for ideas on how to make a joke out of them, it's not very hard. You literally just turn the power off to the ship, and it goes in that deep state where there's barely any lights on, and you're running around with those glowy eyes coming at you, and the head is huge on them. But they are considered a helmet somehow, so that's what it is. Okay, so on with a little more detail into those contests. So the first one up is the pumpkin carving contest. This is out every year. Very popular contest. Loving those 100 eyes. Little Pico. So with the event, you can see that there's some serious rewards here, and they come with the green ship paint included. They are what they are. I'm going to include the links to all these contests below, so if you want to go into them, you can view the actual the rules here if you want to double check them. Don't forget that the submission thread is on its own page. So if you click on my link, be sure to click on this one here to actually the Spectrum submission thread. And that goes for each one of these. They have their own separate thread. So down below is just comments and thoughts and you celebrating the moment. Not meant for submitting. You will not be considered for the rewards. If you put all this work in, be sure to put it in the submission thread. And I wouldn't look at that submission thread before you submit, because you might feel like, oh, I can't make it. But I've seen plenty of times where the people that put a lot of heart and soul into it really do well in many cases, surprisingly well. The next one up is another contest, the Day of the Vara 2951 Cave Runners contest. This was a little convoluted. I'm going to just be honest with you. So they want you to go to Hurston, go to this point, the Calthrop point, and there is a quantum marker on the map. Then leave your spaceship and approach the cave that's right there at that point. And they want you to record this entire process. See right here. Use video capture to record your attempt. Close to the cave mat entrance. There's a 1QM2 yellow stone. Position your character central to the stone and kneel. This is the start and end point of this race. So they want you to start your race on top of this stone. So they want you basically kneeling on that stone, and I would honestly make sure it's in the frame of your video reference. If you're going to do third person, that's easy. First person, be sure to look down. And I would start the recording of your video there. And then they want you to run through the time measurement starts and the leaving of the start position and ends with you kneeling on the end point after you reach the point of the return of the cave. So they want you to head into the cave's depths, reach the large cavern with the outstanding rock formation, including 2 pillars, illuminated by a spotlight on the load shelf. Climb the shelf, kneel on the big crate. This is your point of return. So once you get on the big crate, they want you to go all the way back up and then take a knee on the big yellow stone that you started on. It's a little convoluted. Make sure to bring a couple med pens in this type of situation. And honestly, it may even be best to bring a friend. It would be kind of fun if you took turns doing this contest. So if you brought a friend along, somebody else that would basically stand near the yellow return point rock, and you're in a party, you have their marker that'll allow you to see where you're going. So if you get turned around in there, if you see the marker from the person that's with you standing right behind the yellow rock, I wouldn't have them stand right on it. You at least have that waypoint to get back. And it doesn't say anywhere in the rules you can't do something like that. Remember, they're not like pushing you up the rock. They're just standing there. Uh, so, and then obviously you return the favor, let them do their run through, and you would stand behind the yellow rock. So it gives them the waypoint back. So if they get turned around in there, you can do the contest. And you're supposed to record it and upload it to YouTube and use this exact name here. Once again, I'll link below. And then be sure to check this rules for more details. I would just put it on Spectrum and be done with it, but you can also put it on Facebook or Twitter using hashtags, and put your time. And remember, it's the time from when you stood up on that rock to go run down there, and then all the way back to kneeling back on the rock. And you have to have it the entire thing on the video. And this is showing that large crate you're supposed to be as like your turnaround point. You get to that, you kneel on that, you go all the way back up. And once again, the rewards are pretty good for this event. I like that this event doesn't require you to do anything crazy. Like have to carve out a pumpkin or have to go buy any resources. You can literally just play the game, which is cool. I think it's interesting that they're mentioning here that they will downgrade people for having too high gamma values on their video and character's health. So I guess if you take a lot of injuries from falling, you'll take losses. So they're like kind of grading you on that kind of thing. So that is the Cave Runners contest. Now on to another thing that requires you to do no kind of contest, literally submit a picture. So technically it is a contest, but it is not what you'd expect. This is the CitizenCon Watch Party and Win contest. And before you say, well, wait a minute, in my situation, I don't have a lot of people hanging out in my house or my apartment, my place. Understand that they are pretty cool about that. You can have what's called a party of one. So if you got nobody else in your household or family or your college dorm or wherever you're at, whatever way of life you have, you could be by yourself and get that picture. Make sure you're in it. Make sure it shows the CitizenCon event happening, and then you post it on Twitter or Instagram using this hashtag. There are contest rules you can view here if you want to just be sure you dotted your I's and crossed your T's, but this is a pretty easy one. Literally, you take a picture of you watching the CitizenCon and post it up. They did mention that all entries have to be submitted before midnight on October 11th. I would do it earlier than and sooner than just get it out of the way, during like between, panels or something like that during CitizenCon if you're lucky enough to be home. I like that they have this kind of longer time period because not everybody's going to be able to watch CitizenCon live. You get to work, you're at school, whatever you're doing. So they are kind of being understandable about that, where you can watch the videos after the fact and still get to enjoy this. So that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, some people have opinions about whether or not watch parties are worth talking about, but understand that you can literally just post yourself watching, and they want to like see like CitizenCon fanism. You don't have to go spending money. If you bother to carve a pumpkin, I recommend putting that in the in the background or on your coffee table or something, or on your desk. But other than that, you don't have to go crazy. So themed food, themed dress code would be kind of cool. Um, right off the top of my head, Crusader colors, the blues and the whites, and then just literally have a card stock cut out of C, a letter C or something with the sword. That would go a long way probably in earning some brownie points, or whatever your favorite manufacturer is, or whatever your favorite company is in just general in Star Citizen. Um, the, the, the world is endless, and that's the beauty of Star Citizen. There's a lot of content to work with if you want one of these headsets. And understand, it's a physical hearts headset. I don't. I wish it was CDF. I wish it was CDF, not Xenothreat, but it is still cool. Maybe you can, if you're into our role play and you're one of the good guys, you could argue that it was captured from the bad guys' fleet when the Idris blew up. One of the lifeboats had those. But anyway, Tales of the Star Citizen's Past Story Contest. This is one of a couple here that I've been snagging that were not on that main page for the Day of the Vara because they're not really about Day of Vara. They're about Star Citizen CitizenCon. So these contests, once again, I'll have the links below. But if you're wondering how I'm getting them, they're in the general chat pinned on the announcements. Anyway, so this one is very simple. It's if you've run into people in the past that play Star Citizen or showed interest in Star Citizen, that's honestly seems like as far as you need to go. Just write your interaction with them and why it was memorable. And they set up to 3,600 characters. I think, and they said pictures are optional, but definitely encouraged. So if you happen to go to a Bar Citizen meetup or some other sci-fi event that happened to have somebody else who's a fan of Star Citizen, I think that would be acceptable and great. Um, I don't think you need 3,600 characters to explain why your memory was nice. So this is one of those that would be kind of cool. Um, yeah. So if you have one of those type of memories, there's a great way to try to win a Tobii eye tracker, and that's a cool piece of equipment, especially if you're getting it free. And finally, um, this video is kind of snapping through a lot of the Day of Vara events, covering the ship sale, covering the paint sale, basically is what I'll call it, which is really what it's for. I will mention just one last thing about that is that the CCUs being missing for the Caterpillar is quite a problem. I hope they fix that as of this recording. If they do, I'll update it in a more recent video. But as of right now, the CCU is not available for the Caterpillar. If there was CCUs available, even just for the ship, not for the paint, just for the ship, and then you could buy the paint separately like you already can, um, it would be pretty cool. Especially because they're upping, they're gonna place the Caterpillar at a higher price point at IAE. That's no secret. That's fact. They literally put it in Spectrum posts. There's some other things bouncing around about CitizenCon. Uh, how comfortable do I feel talking about things that were accidentally posted by leadership of the company? I don't. If you have eyes, go on Reddit. You'll see what's there. But uh, I'll just say this much: I strongly, strongly, strongly suspect there will be a lot of content at this CitizenCon about systems other than Stanton, and that's as far as I feel comfortable as talking about things. Um, there was stuff that's much more substantial, but that's a rumor that had nothing to do with what was released in another circumstance. So things that are official that have been released have signaled that there's a lot of push for development in other systems other than Stanton. We've seen it on the roadmap. We've seen it in other videos. We've seen it in lures, kind of lockstep behind everything. We've seen it with the micro jump point discussions that have been ongoing with CIG's folks. So at CitizenCon, I strongly suspect that there will be a system that is talked about other than Stanton, and I'm going to leave it at that. Um, I don't feel comfortable with bringing up an actual leak, and like I said, I'm only using the information that we know publicly. So, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, though, you can. It's your choice. You can go to Reddit and take a look at some things, whether you believe them or not. It's up to you. Um, on Star Citizen Live, they posted today here on Friday. There was a really cool discussion about the world's prop system, and I feel like this video didn't get a lot of love. If you look at the likes and the dislikes, well, it doesn't really look like a Star Citizen official video when you have quite a few downvotes, and there was a few comments below that weren't too kind about how this seems to be filler, etc. But I appreciate the two folks who took the time to spend with Jarrett and show off their development. I think they picked the wrong prop. They picked a traffic cone, uh, but the methodology and their methodology to think through how to develop any type of prop, regardless of how cool and exciting it is or not, but it is a necessary feature of the game, uh, it is really interesting to me. And then the next step, I'm going to show you a small highlight here that I really liked. It was showing their workflow of integrating lighting, integrating reflectivity, and mixing together multiple layers of an item. And it just shows the level of dedication and care that goes into the world that they're building, and the efforts that goes into even something as simple as a futuristic traffic cone. So I'm going to show you a short clip here that I really appreciated.
Like that usually you wouldn't have something like that. You wouldn't have like a light source just unprotected on its own. It would be a light source, but you'd have like glass over the top or something, right? Or a cover, especially on something that's like, quite industrial or something. So what we're going to do,
like a thin layer of acrylic or something like that. See that ID where he's putting the number in on the right? That's where we choose which material we want to apply.
What I'm actually going to do, because you see we've got a bit of weird. So the chamfer modifier can carry us to a certain point where we can preview what it's going to look like, but the shading becomes a bit naff. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to apply some custom normals to this, which is basically going to save our life, really, and make that look a bit nicer. So this is what it looks like before. We'll add it to our custom normal save sets. We're going to make sure it's all set to one smoothing group, and then we're going to apply it. Boom.
There we go.
Wow.
So normals, when we describe a normal inside of game development, we're usually referring to the direction something's facing. So in that case, Lewis had done some stuff which meant 3ds Max had kind of got confused which way things were facing. So that script there, another bit of witchcraft from our tools guys, allows us to basically go, or sort yourselves out, guys. And then that's exactly what it did. You press the magic button, and then we're in business.
Now we're doing so we're very fastly mapping this just because of time constraints, but just the whole way along, the asset doesn't need to look perfect as long as you can kind of see it developing where you need to and get a rough idea of what it's going to look like. That's kind of where you can go.
So, what you just saw is only a couple minutes of effort by this team very quickly as they put it out because they're trying to do this on camera and they clearly are comfortable with these tools. But I think there's one little interesting thing here. These are professionals who know their system. They know how to make these props. They understood multiple layers of material and how the engine's going to handle reflections, lighting, etc. And then they work in a special tool that was
Allows
created
us to
for
basically
them.
go it. Or sort yourselves out, guys. And then that's exactly what they did.
Which is basically going to save our life, really.
Ben's custom normals tool.
And make that look a bit nicer. So this is what it looks like before. We'll add it to our custom normal save sets. We're going to make sure it's all set to one smoothing group. And then we're going to apply it. Boom.
There we go.
Wow.
So normals, when we describe a normal inside of...
No.
Boom.
The beauty of having my own ability to pause on my own videos is that the little gems can't run away.
There we go.
Wow.
So normals, when we describe a normal inside of...
So I think this is really cool that you can see like they have their own exporting tool. It's tools on top of tools, folks. They literally have a special normals tool set that allows every prop that is coming in, every creation that is being made in 3DS to be correctly set up to be brought in to the active engine. And you can even see here that there's checks being done and a pre-export script completed before the checking's even started for the traditional export and importing into the environment. See the checking level of detail. There's on each piece on both sets of cones, and you can see that they're bringing it into staging content and checking for duplicate node names. Look at all this effort. What I see here, what I hear from them, is years of experience and mistakes that have been built into bringing about this amazing thing. And nothing's perfect. They even make a joke about how they had at least 130K in the making of this show. But what I think we've seen here is literally years of effort and sweat and blood and tears to get things working right. And what I see is a lot of right here. And that's what amazes me about this game. It always gives me this sense of awe. When I was watching this earlier, I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Game development, we're usually referring to the direction something's facing. So in that case, Lewis had done some stuff which meant 3ds Max had kind of got confused which way things were facing. So that script there, another bit of witchcraft from our tools guys, allows us to basically go, or sort yourselves out, guys. And then that's exactly what they did. You know, you press the magic button and then we're in business.
I want to give a shout out to the unsung heroes. A lot of times, if you think it's boring to watch props being made like traffic cones, imagine how the folks who are the unsung heroes in the background creating these tools, making it possible for these folks to pump out that traffic cone in a couple minutes, really are the unsung heroes of this game. And if somehow, some way, these type of videos make it back to those type of folks, thank you for all you do. I know it doesn't seem like the coolest thing ever, but this is an example of exactly why you're doing the right thing. And that's who I think I'd love to see a video about. I think there was a collab video a few months ago now. I think it was an SC Live where they brought in folks from I think all over the California office and the Texas office. I think it was a combination, if I remember right. But it was some of the ship folks, a QA person, like a producer. It was like a whole combination of folks, all about the process of trying to build a ship and work through it. And I really enjoyed the heck out of that episode because it took it in directions normally we wouldn't see, especially, through QA and the production side of things. I would love to see an episode that's a lot like that, like a collaboration episode of an environment. The environment, all the things that go into it. Bring in those folks that were doing the lighting, bring in folks that are doing sound design, bring in folks who are doing props, and bring in the tool folks that kind of tie everything together. And then the procedural folks, shout out to the folks up there in the Great White North that are able to do these amazing things together. And I think that's one of the things that Star Citizen really needs to show off is how strong and how dynamic and how varied up their skill sets are in their massive team of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I think Chris and Sandy had that interview recently where they talked, I think their number is around 700 employees now, all handling this type of stuff. It's mind-boggling, but I can see where it's going. I'm still, I've been here since the beginning, and it still inspires me every time, even with all the ups and downs and everything. So, okay, that's kind of where I'm at. I guess I'll leave it there. I will say that if you get a chance, do take advantage of these contests. Somebody has to win, and it can be you. And it's not just the go to Jumptown one or buy a mask and run around in it. And I think there's also going to be some surprises. Like, for example, at or near October 27, I would not be shocked. See, that they even talk about the holiday has public festivals with decorations. It would not surprise me if they do something like go find gifts or maybe even have a small event of some other kind. It would not shock me at all, full stop. But nothing's confirmed, so we'll see. With the pumpkin carving and the cave runners contest, I think the cave runners contest is very involved. I think people would need to be able to navigate to that location, figure it out, and go do the. Don't forget video recording. If you are going to try this, less is more. I would turn your graphic settings down a little bit, especially if you haven't already. Get your clouds to medium. Cloud volumetric settings and your options. Be sure to set that to medium anyway. But it makes a tremendous difference between the high quality and medium for some reason. But the mediums look fine for the most part, and they help a lot with the recordings. If you're still having problems, you can lower some other things. Understand that if you're on a laptop or if you're on 16 gigs of RAM in general, you might have some, I'm talking about like a normal laptop, not a desktop replacement full-size laptop. I'm talking about a smaller laptop. Understand that you're probably going to want to set those settings really, really low. Set it a medium across the board or lower until you're comfortable. Be sure to have your paging file for your computer set to around 10 gigs. I'll include a link below to how to do that in Windows 10. If you're in Windows 7 still or a different kind of Windows or whatever, something else, I can't help you. But I can at least put in the 10, and I'll gladly answer questions about what a paging file is. But the gist is, it's a small amount of space on your hard drive that your computer can use as RAM if it needs to for like spikes. That's the gist of it. So if you go above 16 gigs, those little spikes of RAM, like say when you're activating a video recorder or putting it into save mode after you've done a recording, that would be the perfect timing for that to kick in, and that's usually what happens. It's not always perfect, but it's better than nothing, and it doesn't mean you have to spend a dime. Literally just tie up a little bit of your hard drive space, and that'll make it far more consistent for recording, for frame rates, and also just for your own sanity. It would really suck going all the way over there, running through a cave, and all these other crazy nonsense, and then you go to hit save and it crashes. That would really, really be miserable. If you have more than 16 gigs of RAM, you should be fine. I'd still set your settings on medium, but that's just me, for that type of thing. But that'll do it for this episode. Day of Vara build up. Sorry I don't have more hints for CitizenCon. Just that one specific one that I mentioned earlier. That do expect discussion of other systems other than Stanton, and that's understandable based on information that we've seen from being signaled to us and on the roadmap. Also, this goes without saying, one last thing I'm thinking about: ships. Don't forget, in the previous episodes we've covered the A2. The A2 is coming with 3.15, and then you also have the Ares series, both the Ion and the Inferno, and then also the Aegis Redeemer, the baby, nicknamed the mini Hammerhead, the baby Hammerhead, whatever you want to call it. That's also coming. All three of those ships are coming in IAE, so late November. Expect those in late November. They need a little more time to polish those or something like that, and that's basically what's happening. So A2 first, right at 3.15, whatever that is. My best guess would be after CitizenCon, probably late October. If I was to guess, at the very least, it'll be in hopefully the PTU by that point. Hopefully, and then at IAE a little later in the 3.15 production series. That's the exact words Jared used earlier a couple episodes ago. What am I kidding? Yesterday, at Star Citizen, inside Star Citizen. You have that mention of the A2 coming beforehand. So exciting stuff with the ships. Bear that in mind. Do not buy 6-month insurance ships if you can possibly avoid it, with annual ship sale right around the corner. Also, keep in mind one other thing. The Caterpillar is a loaner for a few different ships, including the Raelin. So it is actually an interesting topic to really think carefully about the Caterpillar in general. By the time the Caterpillar is no longer your loaner ship, it may be significantly down the road. Like, for example, even the Raelin, if it comes in, like let's say late 2022, you're going to have that loaner Caterpillar so long. By the time it finally comes around, there's going to be plenty of other options and different ships that probably will starting to see modularity on the horizon. You got to really be a fan of the Caterpillar at that enhanced price point, or be willing to eat the insurance difference to really enjoy that. Yeah, so that's some interesting thoughts about the Caterpillar specifically that I would caution about, folks. Really give it a chance and see what it's like before you go spending anything on it. Talk to your org mates, talk to friends, talk to the global chat. There's plenty of folks with Caterpillars, and especially before the wipe hits, there'll be plenty of folks that run around because they can buy it in game. So bear that in mind too. It's a very interesting ship, but it is a ship that has a lot of crowded environment right now. Unless it gains that modularity anytime soon, it's just one more very good option, but just another option. The M2, the C2 Hercules is another good example of, like, in that price point, they're pretty hard to beat. Especially the C2 has more storage space, has more SCU. The M2 technically does as well until it finally gets its nerf bat, where because when it gets real armor, it's going to have slightly less than the Caterpillar, whereas the C2 enjoys a bit more than the Caterpillar in storage of SCU for hauling. But both the Herculeses are better at flying in atmosphere. So it's really a matter of what you want to get when the Caterpillar has its modularity. So see how I'm getting at this? It's kind of a side grade. It's very rare situations that it's going to be something you're going to miss out with greatly with the Caterpillars versus other ships. If you have other options, think carefully. Do not invest in a large, expensive ship like that with only 6 months insurance. If there was a CCU, I'd be singing a different story and comparing a bunch of other ships that you would consider to compare to the Caterpillar. Even at the current price point, it would not be the worst decision. Who knows? Maybe CIG will relent on that, but we'll see. Alrighty, that'll do it for me. Have a great night and fly safe.